Have you noticed a trend in recent years when it comes to what types of games are made? I mean, besides the zombie craze, and then the survival open world shoot 'em people thing craze, and then the battle royale craze, and then the oh yeah, there was a MOBA craze, and it's not anymore. Nobody's making them. But these are crazes based mostly on mechanics. Mostly. The one I'm referring to is one of theme. Well, technically zombies are a theme too. But that is the dad game, where you no longer play as a singular character that goes around and kicks things in the butt and saves the world. You play as that character, but now with a kid. And these are the top 7 dad games. Games where you play as a dad with a kid usually around to follow you or to save or to guide or to inevitably see perish at the end if you made a certain choice. That game isn't on the list, and now that I've said what the ending is, I can't even mention what it is. Now can I? That would be very mean of me. So I just put footage on it on the background since the beginning. It's okay, everybody dies in that game anyway, I mean, depending on what you choose. Now you may be asking exactly what is up with all the dad games all of a sudden. Well, they haven't all appeared all of a sudden, it's been in the last 10 years. They've gradually been released and they're all kind of big AAA gigantic games. And the reason for that is that one, the developers now have kids and they want to make games about having kids and taking care of kids because, you know, they grew up. They don't make games about chopping people's heads off without a message there currently. Two, because the people they used to sell the games about chopping people's heads to, they grew up as well, and now they have their own kids. That's in the Western type of video games industry at least. Nintendo will always make Mario games aimed at everybody. So that being said, let's get started with number 7, DadOShock 2. In this game you play as Big Daddy Delta, a vampire that is trying to do his best to save, in a way, his sort of daughter. Now I say he's a vampire because, well, let's face it, you don't have a reflection through the entire game. You only see it once when you wake up from your death. Because let's face it, you shot yourself in the head, you are dead. 2, you are impervious to a lot of damage, which is something common for all vampires. 3, you inject red stuff to heal yourself, and if you want a spoiler, if you get hit by direct sunlight, you sort of die. Other than that, yeah, it's a vampire. I mean, Big Daddy Delta's a vampire, but he's also a dad. And he has to care for his little sister, his protege, basically. Has to find her and go and rescue her, and depending on what your actions are through the game, if you decide to be evil, technically the people you're trying to stop there, they're kind of assholes too, but if you decide to be more of an asshole, then your influence on your daughter will be that she will grow up to be kind of evil too. So it's up to you to forge this character's path. A character that you will never play as, but who will help you through the course of the game at a certain point, because she's kind of a, it's Rapture, they do things to kids, so they all have superpowers. So even if you are a deadbeat dad because you were dead for like 15 years or something, you still play as a dad that cared enough about his kid to teach her the right lessons, depending on what you personally believe those lessons to be, or if you didn't figure out that the game had a moral compass. Number 6, Dadsonored. You play as a bodyguard to an empress in a land where they have this tradition where there's a couple of days or a week, I think, where basically everything goes. It's not the purge, but traditions fall apart, rules are set aside, and Corvo went boinga boinga with the Empress, and they had a kid. It's not a spoiler, the game tells you that a lot of times, and the sequel is based around it. I mean, even if you weren't the actual dad, you're the surrogate dad. That is the dad. You have to go around and disappear people in nice or unnice ways to save your daughter. And again, just like in the previous game, as if they're made by people that are emulating the same kind of idea, to forge her identity through your actions, to prove to her that either mercy works or that killing everybody is the way to go, and pretty much she will become a tyrant. And well, honestly, it won't really have that much of a bearing on the second game, I think, because I haven't played it yet. I don't know if the start is different depending on what you chose in the previous game, but it's probably not. It absolutely probably is not. Because if you were a tyrant, I don't think what happened in the second game would happen. I mean, you probably kill everybody that tried to get in your way. I mean, that's one way to make sure that there never is a coup. Which is a lesson that Corvo should probably taught to Emily probably a bit better. Number 6, Dad Hill. Now Silent Hill is a bit of a hipster in this case because it's been doing the dad shtick long before any other game on this list. The entire game is based on the idea that you were driving around with your foster daughter and you crash your car at the edge of a place, a very nice, beautiful place called Silent Hill, where nothing creepy happens except that it seems to be snowing ash. There's a heavy fog, there's some flying creepy stuff and some things that look like dogs turned inside out roaming around. Periodically everything turns to hell. There's a cult that has plans for your daughter, and turns out everything's being controlled by a doge at a control panel doing things, or aliens depending on what ending you get. So that was the second one, not the first one. No, there are aliens in the first one. But you play as a dad, a very worried dad that tries his best to save his daughter from what basically is hell on earth. Now, unlike the previous games, you don't really have much interaction with your daughter. You mostly see her in the distance, so she's not really there. She is in the previous ones, she pops up from time to time, but again, it's really not that much of an involved relationship in terms of gameplay or in terms of presence in the same scene. That sort of design choice shifted over the years, and we got different kinds of interpretations of the dad game genre. For example, number 4, The Walking Dead's Season 1. When Telltale announced it was going to make a Walking Dead series, it wasn't really clear exactly what we were gonna get. Was it gonna be about killing the zombies, surviving the zombies? No, it was about being a dad, a foster dad. You're playing as Clementine's foster dad, because basically she was home alone when the zombie outburst happened and she needed rescuing, and over the course of the game you will interact with her, you will teach her how to survive, you will have repeated nightmares about her dying, and you will do your best to make sure that Clementine survives and grows up to be the main character of the series for like more season than you think they would have content for, but they did somehow. And also, it's not just about you as the dad, it's also about Kenny as a dad to his son, and he will do anything to protect his son. It's a story about dads doing whatever is possible to safeguard their kids in a world that's gone crazy and is now filled with murderous zombies. And kids in that universe are just so easily squishable. I mean, they just go around doing stupid stuff constantly and will get themselves or others killed non-stop, guaranteed. Number 3, The Dad of Us. Now, I haven't actually played The Last of Us, but from everything I've seen, especially from the intro scene, this is a very dad-focused game. It's about you being a dad, encountering a lot of loss, like right up front. It starts in a big way, and then over the course of the game, you have to be surrogate dad to another character, and you have to make sure that... Okay, I don't actually know what the story of the game is past the intro. I don't know exactly what you do, but it's very dad in its nature and the way it's built, with the added benefit that the kid you're looking out for, Ellen Page, is actually quite capable of doing things in combat. She's not helpless, she can do things on her own. Oh yeah, she's also invulnerable, so there's no worry that she will ever get hurt in-game. Kinda really takes away from the stress of the situation in both good and bad ways. I mean, for the one party, you know, it's a sham, it's a fake. She'll never get injured. On the other part, you're kinda happy because consoles don't have quick saves, and let's face it, if that was just checkpoint based, you would claw your face out because the AI got stuck in a corner somewhere and forgot to move and died. So there's advantages to that, which is not all that dissimilar from number 2, BioShock Infinite. Yes, 2 BioShock games in this list. It's almost like this game was meant to be a continuation of the idea of the previous one, and the people that made the previous one, which was in the same studio, it was bits of the same studio but not the entire team, sort of jumped the gun by making BioShock 2 before this one with the same idea. You play as a man looking for his daughter, looking for a way to get her back. And along the way, you stumble onto another person that can be a surrogate for your lost daughter. You find Elizabeth, who will also come with you and be useful in combat. She can throw you things. She'll yell book or catch and throw you ammo. She's like an ammo dispenser. She pulls that out of her keister non-stop because there's no ammo lying around, though to be fair, she can open gates to other worlds, and maybe she pulls the ammo out of that. And she can also be quite scary because she will repeatedly do crazy stuff like, well, technically no, she did more crazy stuff in the previous version of the game we kept seeing in the trailers that weren't in the final game. But at the end she does sort of call a tornado, and I think she kills a bunch of people. But she can do really, really bad stuff. And it's up to you to, well, not actually guide her. There aren't any choices in that game, are there? Like, none at all. I don't think there were ever any choices in Bioshock Infinite. But it does work on the multi-something-something kind of concept, so maybe every choice you made was already done, and what's left is the non-choice of not choosing but going along with the story. Also, the gameplay was flat out boring compared to all the previous ones. Like, man, okay, I'll give it that. They swing around on the rafters thing with the hook wheel thing. That was fun. Most of the combat is in corridors though, so it's not something you really do all that often. But the dad part is great. It's fabulous. It's very, very dadifying at the end. And number one is Dad of War 4? It's numberless, it doesn't have a number. In this game you play as Kratos, with his family, the one he didn't brutally murder yet. And you basically go around yelling at your kid constantly, which is something we can all relate to. And it's a very, very dad-son bonding experience, which comes as a bit of a whiplash from, remember God of War, right? Remember what the series was about, the Boinga Boingas, and well, the people that made it grew up, the audience that enjoyed it, no, that didn't grow up, but they do appreciate the fact that it's different now, it's more mature, it's calmer in a way, unless he gets angry and kills everything. It's about being a dad of war. And also, I haven't played the game at all, but I just know that putting it in the show and having it somehow represented in the thumbnail will get this video mad clicks, yo, and that's what we all want, isn't it? Absolutely. So that'll be it for the top 7 dad games. I'd like to give a couple of special mentions to Dad Rain, Dad Out 4, and of course to Dad Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Dads. Even though in that game it's, well, you technically should be the dad, but there's a hitch and a glitch in a thing. And if you've played it, you know what I mean. But you are a dad. You're technically the dad of everybody there because you're the big boss and you run everything and you yell at everybody and you slam them to the ground for kicks when they salute you because you're an asshole. And I look forward to the 50,000 other dad games that will show up in the next couple of years because, as the market has proven, these kinds of games will sell. Also, where are all the mom games? I mean, I know there's a bunch of them and the hidden object type specter of the gaming sphere, but in actual games there's not a lot of them, are there? Huh. Well, there's a Shelter series, so I guess it counts in a way, but there should be more. Well, technically Fallout 4 is as well, because, you know, you can choose. I should probably make a Kickstarter and complain about this, shouldn't I? Nah, that would be a dumb idea. Who'd pay for that? Yeah, silly idea. But if you have your own suggestions for dad games, make sure to mention them in the comments. Goodbye.